The little girl had never called me dad. Even my wife never called me by my name with affection. She only addressed me by my surname, as if I were nothing more than a stranger living under the same roof. For 5 long years, I accepted it all without complaint. To them, my silence meant I knew my place. In their eyes, I could never compare to the man who had abandoned them years ago. But there was one truth that no one in this world knew. I didn't belong here. 5 years ago, I was brought into this world by a mysterious system. Its promise was simple. Stay with Liu Ruyan and her daughter, Lin Yuanyuan, for 5 years. When the 5 years are over, your wife and daughter in the real world will awaken from their coma, and you will be allowed to return home. That single promise became the reason I endured everything. Now, the 5 years had finally ended. At the same time, the man Liu Ruyan had loved all along, Boran, had returned. Strangely enough, our goals were exactly the same. Neither of us wanted the other to remain in this family. Neither of us wanted to meet again. A cold mechanical voice echoed inside my mind. Ding! Congratulations, host. 5-year companionship mission completed. The portal back to your original world will open in 7 days. After returning, your wife and daughter in the real world will be revived. The familiar voice I had waited to hear for 5 endless years finally arrived. My vision blurred. Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. I covered my eyes with trembling hands as years of exhaustion, grief, and hope crashed over me all at once. Finally, I could go home. 5 years ago, my real wife and little daughter had been involved in a devastating car accident. Neither of them died. Instead, they both fell into an irreversible vegetative state. Every doctor had already given up. Just when I had completely lost the will to live, the companion system appeared before me. It offered me one impossible chance, one mission, one family to accompany, one sacrifice. Without even hesitating, I accepted. From the very first day I arrived in this world, I already knew the truth. The woman known as the richest businesswoman, Liu Ruyan, had always loved only one man, Boran. But Boran hated being tied down. He loved freedom more than responsibility. Shortly after Lin Yuanyuan was born, he abandoned both mother and daughter and disappeared without a trace. That was when I entered their lives. I deliberately approached Liu Ruyan, pretended to fall in love with her, stayed by her side, treated her with endless care. After countless efforts, I finally married her. For 5 years, I looked after Liu Ruyan. I raised Lin Yuanyuan as if she were my own daughter. I cooked, cleaned, worked, stayed awake during her fevers, never complained, never asked for anything in return. But everything changed the moment Boran came back. The hearts of both mother and daughter immediately returned to the person they had been waiting for all these years. People laughed at me, mocked me, called me nothing more than a joke, but none of it mattered anymore. Because 7 days from now, my real wife and my real daughter would wake up, and I would finally return to my true home. Just then, ding! The notification sound from my phone broke the silence. I lowered my head and glanced at the screen. It was a message from Liu Ruyan, Manhwa Club. My stomach hurts. Bring the medicine. Just 3 short sentences. Cold. Direct. Without even a single unnecessary word, I stood up and walked toward the window. As soon as I pushed it open, an icy gust of wind rushed into the room. Outside, heavy snowflakes drifted endlessly from the gray sky, covering everything in white. The freezing air instantly made me shiver. Going outside in weather like this was torture. I stared silently at the blizzard for a few seconds. Then, I let out a quiet sigh. There was no point complaining. The companion system had only one absolute rule. I could never refuse any request made by Liu Ruyan or Lin Yuanyuan. Closing the window, I found the stomach medicine, changed into a thick coat, and stepped out into the snow. The cold wind cut across my face like tiny blades. Snow quickly covered my shoulders as I hurried toward Manhwa Club. By the time I finally arrived, my hands had already gone numb from the cold. Standing outside the private room, I reached for the door. But before I could push it open, voices drifted from inside. I stopped. Someone inside laughed. Sister Liu, now that the brother Boran you've been dreaming about has finally come back, are you going to divorce Lin Qiye? My hand froze on the doorknob. For a brief moment, the hallway became completely silent to me. Then, Liu Ruyan's calm, slightly intoxicated voice answered. No. Her voice was gentle. So what if Boran came back? He loves freedom. He doesn't like being tied down by marriage. I love him. So I only want him to live the way he wants. She paused briefly before continuing. As for Lin Qiye, he's considerate. He takes good care of people. He listens to everything I say. He's perfect as a husband and as a father. The room immediately filled with laughter. Before I could react, another familiar voice sounded. The innocent voice of a 5-year-old girl. Lin Yuanyuan. He isn't a husband. He's more like our nanny. He has taken care of mommy and me really well these past 5 years. She giggled happily. But no matter what he does, I'll only ever have one father. The laughter inside became even louder. Someone joked, Yuanyuan really knows how to put people in their place. Another person laughed. So Lin Qiye really does everything you ask? Of course. His reputation as the ultimate simp isn't fake. If you don't believe it, just watch. As they spoke, the atmosphere inside became even more excited. One woman turned toward Liu Ruyan. Sister Liu, can I borrow your watch for a second? Liu Ruyan glanced at her. She clearly understood what the woman intended to do, but she didn't stop her. Without saying a word, she calmly removed the expensive watch from her wrist and handed it over. Without saying a word, Liu Ruyan slowly removed the luxury watch from her wrist and handed it to her friend. The woman smiled mischievously. The next second, she suddenly swung her arm. Whoosh! The watch traced a beautiful arc through the air before disappearing into the icy lake outside the window. Splash! Everyone inside watched with amused expressions. At that exact moment, footsteps approached from behind me. Someone happened to walk by the private room and looked at me standing outside the door. Lin Qiye? Why are you standing outside instead of going in? Before I could answer, the person casually pushed the door open and nudged me inside. I stumbled into the room. The lively conversation instantly stopped. Every pair of eyes landed on me. No one looked embarrassed. Instead, several people smiled as though they had been waiting for this moment. One of Liu Ruyan's friends spoke first. Lin Qiye, perfect timing. Sister Liu's watch accidentally fell into the lake. Go and retrieve it for her. Silence filled the room. I slowly turned my head toward Liu Ruyan. Our eyes met. After a long pause, I quietly asked, Do you really want me to go? Liu Ruyan remained seated. Her expression was as indifferent as ever. She simply gave a small nod. Yes. Beside her, Lin Yuanyuan looked at me with excitement, clearly waiting to watch the show. She tilted her little head and said proudly, Aren't you always willing to do whatever mommy and I ask? You've always said you'd do anything for us. I looked at the little girl for a long moment. Then, a faint smile appeared on my lips. I gently shook my head. No, not forever. Only 7 days more. The smile on Liu Ruyan's face disappeared. She frowned slightly. What did you say? But I didn't answer, nor did I look at her again. Instead, I silently walked toward the open window. The private room was on the second floor. The distance between the window and the frozen lake below wasn't especially high. A wooden chair stood beside the window. I stepped onto it without hesitation, placed one hand on the window frame, then climbed over. Everyone inside stared at me. No one expected me to actually do it. Without a second of hesitation, I jumped. Splash! The moment my body hit the water, an unbearable cold engulfed me. It felt as though countless needles pierced every inch of my skin. The freezing lake instantly stole the warmth from my body. My teeth clenched tightly as I struggled to keep myself afloat. Each breath became painfully difficult. Still, I searched beneath the dark, freezing water. Behind me, laughter and cheering drifted out from the private room. See? I told you. Lin Qiye loves Sister Liu so much. It's the middle of winter, and he jumped in without even thinking. I wish I had a husband that obedient. The room erupted with laughter once again. Only Liu Ruyan remained silent. For some reason, the words Lin Qiye had spoken earlier kept echoing in her mind. Only 7 days more. She let out a cold scoff. He must just be throwing another little tantrum. But so what? No matter how upset he gets. One sentence from us, and he'll still do exactly what we ask. That certainty had never changed in the 5 years they had been together, or so she believed. As Liu Ruyan watched the ripples spread across the freezing lake, her thoughts drifted back to 5 years ago. Everyone had always said that Lin Qiye loved her more than anything. A man willing to marry a woman who already had another man's child. A man who never complained. A man who treated both mother and daughter with unwavering devotion. She had believed it too. From the very first time they met, Lin Qiye had pursued her relentlessly. There had been countless men around her. Some wanted her wealth. Some wanted her beauty. But Lin Qiye seemed to want nothing except her. Even Boran had never loved her with such complete devotion. That was why she had chosen to marry him. For 5 years. No matter what happened. No matter how coldly she treated him. No matter how distant Lin Yuanyuan was, his attitude never changed. He continued to care for them without asking for anything in return. So how could someone like him ever be willing to leave? Thinking this, Liu Ruyan became even more convinced. Those words, only 7 days more, they had to be nothing more than a fit of anger. Meanwhile, in the freezing lake, after searching for what felt like forever, my fingers finally brushed against something hard beneath the water. The watch. I grabbed it tightly. then struggled back toward the shore. Every movement felt heavier than the last. The freezing water had drained nearly all the strength from my body. By the time I climbed back through the window, my clothes were completely soaked. Water dripped continuously onto the floor beneath my feet. My lips had already turned pale. My entire body trembled uncontrollably from the cold. Yet, I still raised my hand. Inside it was Liu Ruyan's watch. Looking at her, I spoke weakly. I found it. Those 3 words seemed to consume the last bit of strength I had left. My vision blurred. Darkness swallowed everything before my eyes. The next moment, my body collapsed forward. Thud. I lost consciousness. Just before everything faded away, I vaguely saw Liu Ruyan's expression suddenly change. She stood up so abruptly that her chair tipped backward. Then, she hurried toward me. Was it real? Or just another illusion created by my fading consciousness? Ever since Boran returned, both Liu Ruyan and Lin Yuanyuan had wanted nothing to do with me. How could they possibly be worried because I had fainted? The darkness completely consumed me. I knew nothing after that. When I slowly opened my eyes again, I discovered that I was no longer at the clubhouse. I was lying in my bedroom. From downstairs, laughter drifted up from the living room. The cheerful voices echoed throughout the house. I rested for a moment before slowly getting out of bed. Then, I opened the bedroom door and walked downstairs, getting out of bed. His body still felt weak from jumping into the freezing lake, and his clothes had already been changed. Opening the bedroom door, he walked downstairs. Only 3 people were sitting in the living room: Liu Ruyan, Lin Yuanyuan, and the man they had always been waiting for, Boran. The 3 of them were sitting together on the sofa, chatting happily. Boran sat comfortably in the middle, while Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan smiled as they talked with him. The moment Lin Qiye appeared, the laughter suddenly stopped. The atmosphere became noticeably colder. Liu Ruyan glanced at him calmly before speaking in an indifferent tone. "Boran will be staying here for a while. Go clean up one of the guest rooms." Lin Yuanyuan, who was sitting obediently in Boran's arms, immediately looked at Lin Qiye with a proud expression. "This is my home. He's my real daddy. So of course he should live here." She tilted her little head. "Uncle Lin, you don't have any objections, do you?" Lin Qiye forced a faint smile. "What right do I have to object?" Liu Ruyan had never loved him. Before Boran returned, Yuanyuan would occasionally call him Dad. But ever since Boran came back, she had started calling Boran Daddy. As for Lin Qiye, he had become nothing more than Uncle Lin. In their eyes, he was only the nanny who took care of the house. Nothing more. Lin Qiye quietly nodded. "Okay." Seeing how easily he accepted it, Liu Ruyan narrowed her eyes slightly. She had expected another argument. Instead, he simply agreed. Yuanyuan, however, didn't think much about it. She immediately crossed her arms. "I'm hungry. Hurry and make dinner. Daddy likes longjing shrimp and fish head tofu. You have to cook them yourself." Lin Qiye still had a fever after soaking in the icy lake. His head felt heavy, and every step made him slightly dizzy. But because of the system's restriction, he couldn't refuse. Without saying another word, he walked into the kitchen. There were no servants helping him today. He prepared every ingredient by himself. Through the kitchen's glass door, he could clearly see the living room. Liu Ruyan gently fed Boran the fruit that the maid had prepared. Yuanyuan carefully poured warm water into Boran's cup. The 3 of them laughed together. They looked exactly like a happy family. Lin Qiye lowered his eyes. They were always a family. I was just the outsider. He silently continued cooking. There was no jealousy, no anger, only peace. In just a few more days, he would return to his own wife and daughter. Nearly 2 hours later, dinner was finally ready. Liu Ruyan, Boran, and Yuanyuan naturally took their seats around the dining table. Throughout the meal, Boran continuously picked food for Yuanyuan. However, every dish he placed into her bowl made her expression worse. Finally, Yuanyuan couldn't hold it in anymore. "Daddy, I don't like this. I've never liked eating this. I told you before." Boran looked embarrassed. "Sorry, Daddy will remember next time." After failing with Yuanyuan, he smiled awkwardly and picked up a shrimp for Liu Ruyan. Before he could place it into her bowl, Liu Ruyan frowned. "I'm allergic to shrimp. You forgot?" Boran froze. His smile stiffened instantly. Neither Liu Ruyan nor Yuanyuan noticed his embarrassment. Instead, they both looked toward Lin Qiye almost at the same time. Without saying anything, Lin Qiye quietly picked up the serving chopsticks. He calmly placed each person's favorite dishes into their bowls. Only then did Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan begin eating normally. After a while, Lin Qiye remembered the soup that was still simmering in the kitchen. He stood up. "I'll bring the soup." Inside the kitchen, he turned off the stove. Just as he reached for the soup ladle, the kitchen door opened. Boran walked in with a gentle smile. "I'll help you carry it." Lin Qiye immediately shook his head. No need. But while Lin Qiye turned around to grab another spoon, Boran had already reached for the boiling soup pot. The next second, crash! The clay soup pot slipped from Boran's hands. Boiling soup exploded across the floor. Some of it splashed onto Boran's hand. He immediately cried out in pain. But far more boiling soup splashed directly across Lin Qiye's thigh. The scalding liquid instantly soaked through his trousers. His entire leg trembled violently. The skin rapidly turned bright red. Before Lin Qiye could even react, the loud noise had already drawn Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan into the kitchen. They hurried over. What happened? Boran lowered his head pitifully. His voice was filled with grievance. Mr. Lin probably doesn't like me. So, he deliberately poured the soup onto me. I understand. After all, I left them back then. He took care of both of you for so many years. Now that I've returned, he must resent me. I never wanted to take anything away from him. His words instantly ignited Liu Ruyan's anger. Without giving Lin Qiye any chance to explain, she coldly interrupted him. Take what away? Yuanyuan and I have always belonged to Boran. Lin Yuanyuan glared at Lin Qiye with obvious disgust. You're such a bad person! My mommy only married you so someone could take care of me. Don't think you're really the master of this house. Know your place. Don't let this happen again. Liu Ruyan carefully supported Boran. Let's go. Without another glance at Lin Qiye, the three of them left the kitchen together. No one noticed. Boran's hand had only been lightly splashed, but Lin Qiye's thigh had been burned over a large area. The skin was already blistering from the boiling soup. Or perhaps, even if they had noticed, they simply wouldn't have cared. Love and not being loved were worlds apart. Lin Qiye looked at the backs of the three people walking away. A bitter smile slowly appeared. I knew my place from the very beginning. I was never her husband. I was never Yuanyuan's father. I was only passing through this world. And soon, I'll finally be leaving. Dragging his injured leg, he slowly returned to his room. He treated the burn by himself. Just then, his phone suddenly lit up. A new message had arrived. It was from Boran. Lin Qiye tapped the video. On the screen, Boran's lightly burned hand had already been carefully bandaged. Liu Ruyan, despite her cleanliness obsession, was personally peeling pomegranates and feeding them to Boran one piece at a time. Nearby, the little girl who always claimed she hated practicing piano was sitting at the piano. She happily played a melody just to make Boran smile. The three of them laughed together like the perfect family. A message appeared beneath the video. So what if you married her? They're still by my side. Even if I abandoned them once, the only person they truly love is me. Lin Qiye quietly closed the video. There wasn't even the slightest ripple in his heart, because Liu Ruyan and Lin Yuanyuan had never been his real family. His real wife, his real daughter, were waiting for him in another world. He looked around his room. There were very few belongings that truly belonged to him. Without hesitation, he began packing everything into bags. Tomorrow morning, he would throw them all away. He was preparing to leave this world forever. The next morning, sunlight slowly shone through the villa's windows. When Liu Ruyan and Lin Yuanyuan returned home, they happened to see Lin Qiye standing beside the trash bin outside the house, one bag after another. He quietly threw away his belongings. Liu Ruyan frowned slightly. What are you throwing away? Lin Qiye paused for a moment before replying calmly. Just some useless trash. His tone was casual, as if it were nothing important. Curious, Lin Yuanyuan walked over and looked inside the trash bag. Inside were only Lin Qiye's clothes, shoes, daily necessities, and a few personal items. She curled her lips in disdain. They really are just useless trash. Hearing her mockery, Lin Qiye remained silent. He simply tied up another bag and placed it beside the trash can. Just then, Liu Ruyan's phone rang. She answered it. After listening for a few seconds, she replied, I'll be there. After hanging up, she turned to Lin Qiye. I have a business meeting. Take good care of Yunan. As always, he couldn't refuse. Okay. Liu Ruyan left shortly afterward. The villa suddenly became much quieter. Lin Qiye looked toward Yunan. Ever since Boran had returned, she hadn't reviewed her schoolwork for many days. Although she was exceptionally intelligent, even talented children couldn't neglect their studies forever. He gently spoke. Yunan, let's go to the study room. We'll review today's lessons. Before she could answer, the front door suddenly opened. Boran walked inside, carrying several colorful bags filled with toys and snacks. He immediately crouched in front of Yunan with a warm smile. Yunan, Daddy finally has time to spend the whole day with you. So, do you want to stay with him or with Daddy? Without the slightest hesitation, Yunan shook off Lin Qiye's hand. She happily rushed into Boran's arms. Of course I want Daddy. She hugged Boran tightly with a bright smile. Boran looked at Lin Qiye with obvious pride before letting out a smug laugh. He then led Yunan into the living room. Lin Qiye quietly followed behind. Within less than an hour, the once spotless living room became a complete mess. Snack bags were scattered everywhere. Potato chips covered the carpet. Drink bottles lay on the floor. The expensive sofa was filled with toys. Boran simply laughed together with Yunan as they played video games on the floor. Neither of them cared about the mess. Lin Qiye silently cleaned up after them. He picked up the trash, wiped the table, organized the toys. Everything returned to its proper place, only to become messy again moments later. He said nothing. Not long afterward, Boran carried Yunan upstairs. "Come on, Daddy will play airplane with you." Yunan giggled happily. "Higher, higher." Standing downstairs, Lin Qiye immediately became worried. He quickly walked toward the staircase. "Mr. G, this is the second floor. It's dangerous to throw a child up here. You should stop." Boran didn't take his warning seriously. "It's just lifting her into the air. What could possibly happen?" Yunan pouted at Lin Qiye. "Ignore him. He's just jealous because I'm close to Daddy." Boran smiled proudly. To show off even more, he tossed Yunan even higher than before. "Daddy, higher!" Yunan laughed excitedly. For a brief moment, everything seemed joyful. Then, disaster struck. Boran became careless. As Yunan fell back down, his hands completely missed her. "No!" "Mach!" Yunan's small body slipped through the air. She fell directly from the second floor. Bang! A dull impact echoed through the villa. Blood quickly spread across the floor beneath her. She didn't even have time to cry. She immediately lost consciousness. Boran froze in place. His face instantly turned pale. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. He couldn't move. For a split second, Lin Qiye also stood there in shock. Then he was the first to react. He rushed downstairs as fast as he could and immediately dialed the emergency number. "Hello, a child has fallen from the second floor. Please send an ambulance immediately." The ambulance arrived within minutes. Yunan was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. After several tense hours, the surgery was finally completed. The doctor came out. "The child is out of danger. She'll be transferred to a VIP ward shortly." Only then did Lin Qiye quietly let out a breath. No matter how Yunan treated him, he had never wanted anything to happen to her. He simply stood silently outside the ward, waiting. Lin Yuanyuan was soon transferred into a VIP hospital room. Not long afterward, Liu Ruyan rushed into the ward. The moment she saw the thick bandages wrapped around Yuanyuan's head, her expression darkened instantly. Her cold eyes swept across everyone in the room. Who did this? Before anyone else could speak, Boran lowered his head with a guilty-looking expression. His voice trembled. It was Mr. Lin. He saw Yuanyuan getting close to me. He became jealous. So, he deliberately threw Yuanyuan from the second floor. Lin Qiye's pupils suddenly contracted. He stared at Boran in disbelief. "What? I didn't!" He had barely spoken 2 words. Just then, the unconscious Yuanyuan slowly opened her eyes. "Yuanyuan!" Liu Ruyan hurried to the bedside. She gently held her daughter's hand. "Does your head still hurt? Tell Mommy. Who pushed you downstairs?" The entire ward fell silent. Boran's heart pounded violently. Even he wasn't certain what Yuanyuan would say. Yuanyuan blinked weakly. Her eyes slowly moved around the room. Finally, she slowly raised one finger. It pointed directly at Lin Qiye. It was him. He threw me down. Boom! It felt as though thunder exploded inside Lin Qiye's mind. He froze where he stood. His face turned pale. His lips trembled slightly. I never. Before he could finish, Yuanyuan suddenly burst into tears. "Daddy. I want Daddy." Boran immediately walked over and hugged her tightly. His eyes became red as he glared at Lin Qiye. "Lin Qiye, if you hate me, then come after me." "Why would you hurt a 5-year-old child? She's only 5. How could you be so cruel?" Every word sounded righteous. Every sentence accused Lin Qiye. If Lin Qiye himself hadn't witnessed everything, he might have believed them too. But the truth was standing right in front of him. He slowly looked toward Yuanyuan. His voice was unusually calm. "Yuanyuan, tell the truth. Who dropped you from the second floor?" Before Yuanyuan could answer, Liu Ruyan suddenly stood up. "Enough!" Her icy voice echoed throughout the room. "When I married you, it was because I believed you were an honest and obedient man. I never imagined you could become so vicious. You even dared to hurt a child." She looked at him with nothing but disgust. There wasn't the slightest trace of trust left in her eyes. You still refuse to admit your mistake. In that case, she turned toward the bodyguards standing outside the ward. Take him back. Lock him in the confinement room. He can come out only after he admits what he's done. The bodyguards immediately stepped forward. Lin Qiye's expression finally changed. No, it wasn't me! I have claustrophobia! You can't lock me in there! Liu Ruyan! Believe me, just this once! But Liu Ruyan never looked back. She gently comforted Yuanyuan while standing beside Boran. She never spared Lin Qiye another glance. The bodyguards dragged him away. Back at the villa, the heavy iron door of the confinement room slowly opened. Before Lin Qiye could struggle, he was pushed inside. Bang! The door slammed shut. The lock clicked into place. Complete darkness swallowed the room. There wasn't a single ray of light. Lin Qiye's breathing instantly became rapid. He desperately rushed toward the door. He pounded on it with all his strength. Liu Ruyan! It really wasn't me. I have claustrophobia. You can't lock me in here. Please! Someone, open the door! His desperate cries echoed through the darkness. But outside, no one answered him. The villa remained silent. Hour after hour passed. His voice gradually became hoarse. His fists became bruised and bloody from pounding on the metal door. His breathing grew heavier. The darkness slowly consumed the last of his strength. His consciousness became increasingly blurred. Before completely losing awareness, only one thought remained in his heart. His real wife. His real daughter. They were still waiting for him in another world. Unlike Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan, they were his true family. He remembered the nights when his wife gently comforted him whenever his fear of darkness overwhelmed him. He remembered his little daughter lying beside him, patting his back with her tiny hands. Daddy, don't be afraid. A faint smile appeared on Lin Qiye's pale face. I can't give up. Just a little longer. I'll be able to go home. With that final thought, his consciousness faded completely into darkness. The next morning, the heavy iron door of the confinement room was finally opened. A beam of sunlight shone into the pitch-black room. Lin Qiye was curled up in the corner. His face was deathly pale. His lips had lost all color. His eyes were dull from spending an entire night trapped in darkness. A bodyguard stepped forward and helped him stand. Moments later, Liu Ruyan appeared outside the door. She looked at him silently for a long moment before finally speaking. I checked the surveillance. It wasn't your fault. Lin Qiye slowly raised his head. For a brief moment, he thought she had finally believed him. But before he could say anything, Liu Ruyan calmly continued. Boran didn't do it on purpose either. Her light-hearted sentence instantly erased the little hope that had just appeared in his heart. Lin Qiye suddenly laughed. A quiet, self-mocking laugh. Yesterday, without investigating anything, she had thrown him into the confinement room. Today, after learning the truth, all she had to say was, he didn't do it on purpose. Liu Ruyan frowned. What are you laughing at? Lin Qiye looked at her. His tired eyes were calm. When she thought he had hurt Yuanyuan, she locked him inside a dark room despite knowing he suffered from claustrophobia. When she discovered Boran was responsible, she excused everything with a single sentence. The difference was painfully obvious. Liu Ruyan's expression gradually became impatient. Yuanyuan didn't mean to frame you. She's just a child. She's asking to eat the food you make. Go cook, then bring it to the hospital. She spoke as though everything that had happened yesterday had never existed, as though Lin Qiye's suffering didn't matter at all. Lin Qiye wanted to refuse. He wanted to tell her no, but the system's restriction tightened around him once again. He couldn't reject any request made by Liu Ruyan or Yuanyuan. He lowered his eyes. Okay. Then, almost inaudibly, he whispered to himself, only 5 days left. Liu Ruyan heard him again. She frowned. You keep saying 7 days, then 5 days. What exactly are you talking about? Lin Qiye shook his head. Nothing, he answered casually. Liu Ruyan looked at him for another second but didn't continue asking. She simply turned around and left. Lin Qiye silently entered the kitchen. His body had not yet recovered from the freezing lake. The burn on his thigh still stung with every movement. His hands were trembling from spending an entire night in the confinement room. Even so, he quietly prepared every dish exactly the way Yuanyuan liked. After finishing, he packed the lunchboxes and headed to the hospital. When he entered the VIP ward, Yuanyuan immediately lifted her little chin proudly. She looked at Boran with complete confidence. See? I told you. He would never stay angry with me. He loves me so much. How could he blame me over something this small? So Daddy, you don't have to feel guilty anymore. Boran smiled gently. Neither of them acknowledged Lin Qiye's presence, as if he were invisible. Lin Qiye calmly placed the lunchboxes on the table. He didn't explain. He didn't defend himself. He didn't even look at them. Everything was about to end anyway. Without saying a single word, he turned around and quietly left the hospital. From that day onward, Lin Qiye never visited Yuanyuan again. Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan spent every day with Boran, making up for the years they had been separated. No one came looking for Lin Qiye, and Lin Qiye welcomed the silence. Day after day, he continued clearing away everything that belonged to him. Clothes, books, daily necessities. Little by little, every trace of his existence disappeared from the villa. Finally, only one thing remained, a slightly yellowed photograph. The picture showed a beautiful woman with delicate features holding a little girl in her arms. Both of them smiled warmly toward the camera. Their eyes were filled with love. Lin Qiye gently stroked the photograph with his fingertips. His eyes gradually became moist. He whispered softly, "Just 3 more days. I'll finally be back with you," he smiled. For the first time in many years, it was a smile filled with genuine anticipation. At that exact moment, a slender hand suddenly reached over from behind and snatched the photograph from his hands. Lin Qiye's expression changed instantly. He quickly looked up. Standing behind him were Liu Ruyan, Lin Yuanyuan, and Boran. Liu Ruyan held the photograph in her hand. She had clearly heard what Lin Qiye had just whispered. 3 more days? She frowned slightly. What do you mean by that? Before Lin Qiye could answer, her eyes fell onto the photograph. The moment she saw the woman and child in the picture, her expression suddenly froze. The elegant composure on her face disappeared. Instead, her eyes filled with burning anger. She tightly gripped the old photograph. Her gaze locked onto Lin Qiye. Who are they? Lin Yuanyuan, curious about her mother's reaction, immediately took the photograph from Liu Ruyan's hand. She looked at it carefully. The little girl's smile, the warmth between the mother and daughter. For some reason, a strange feeling of jealousy suddenly rose inside her heart. She unconsciously tightened her grip. The old photograph bent slightly. Lin Qiye's heart skipped a beat. He immediately stepped forward and carefully took the photograph back. His fingers gently smoothed the crease that had formed. His eyes were filled with heartache. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "They're friends from long ago. We haven't been in contact for many years." His answer was brief and clearly perfunctory. Liu Ruyan frowned. She didn't completely believe him. At that moment, Boran slowly looked around the villa. A puzzled expression appeared on his face. The house. Why does it feel so empty? Lin Yuanyuan also looked around. Only then did she realize many things had disappeared. She suddenly remembered seeing Lin Qiye throwing things away over the past few days. Looking back at him, she frowned. "You've been throwing things away every day. You'd better have only thrown away your own belongings." Her words immediately made Liu Ruyan think of something. Her expression changed. Without saying another word, she hurried toward the study. A few moments later, the study door was pushed open violently. Liu Ruyan walked back out. Her face was filled with anger. She strode directly toward Lin Qiye and grabbed his wrist tightly. "My pearl necklace is gone." Lin Qiye looked confused. "Pearl necklace? What pearl necklace?" Before he could understand, Boran suddenly spoke softly beside them. "The necklace I left behind years ago? Ruyan, you've kept it all this time? Everyone knew. That pearl necklace was Boran's parting gift before he disappeared years ago. It was also the only thing he had left behind. For Liu Ruyan, it carried all the memories of the man she had loved for so many years. She had treasured it more than anything else. Now, it had vanished. Liu Ruyan tightened her grip on Lin Qiye's wrist. Her voice became cold. "Find it." Lin Qiye met her eyes. "I never touched your things." She looked at him without the slightest hint of trust. "The only person who can freely enter my study is you. If you didn't take it, then who did?" Lin Qiye opened his mouth, but no explanation would matter. Liu Ruyan had already made up her mind. "I'll give you one day. Find my necklace." Lin Qiye lowered his gaze. Because of the system, he couldn't refuse. Okay, he immediately left the villa. The trash bins outside the house had already been emptied. He asked the cleaners. The garbage was collected early this morning. It's already been taken to the landfill. Without wasting another second, Lin Qiye rushed to the landfill. Mountains of garbage stretched as far as the eye could see. The foul smell filled the air. Ignoring everything, he climbed into the piles of waste. Bag after bag, pile after pile. He searched continuously. Hour after hour passed. The sun gradually set. His clothes became filthy. His hands were covered in dirt. His injured thigh ached with every movement. Even so, he never stopped searching. He searched throughout the entire day and the entire night. But he never found the pearl necklace. Exhausted both physically and mentally, Lin Qiye finally returned to the villa empty-handed. It was already late at night. The entire house was quiet. Only Liu Ruyan remained awake. She sat alone in the living room, reviewing company documents. Lin Qiye slowly walked over. His tired voice was hoarse. I searched everywhere. I couldn't find it. I really didn't throw away your necklace. Liu Ruyan calmly looked up from her papers. Her expression remained indifferent. It wasn't thrown away. Lin Qiye looked at her in surprise. She spoke casually. It accidentally fell behind the bookshelf. I forgot to tell you. You couldn't find it because it was never missing. The room fell silent. Lin Qiye stood there motionless. After spending an entire day and night digging through a landfill, this was all she had to say. He slowly closed his eyes, then quietly asked, "Didn't you tell me to find it? As long as it's something you ask me to do, I have to do it." His original meaning was simple. The system forced him to obey every request from Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan. He had no choice. But Liu Ruyan misunderstood. She thought he meant he would fulfill every request, simply because he loved her. Her heart trembled slightly. For the first time in years, she remembered everything that had happened during the past 5 years. Lin Qiye had never once refused her. Not even once. Even when she had clearly told him before their marriage that she would never have another child besides Yuanyuan, he had simply smiled and agreed. Thinking back on everything, a trace of guilt quietly surfaced in her heart. When she looked at him again, the coldness in her eyes had softened ever so slightly. Go take a shower and get some rest. Lin Qiye noticed that she had misunderstood, but he was too exhausted to explain. Without another word, he turned around and slowly walked upstairs. The moment his head touched the pillow, he fell into a deep sleep. Perhaps because he had spent an entire day and night searching through the landfill, Lin Qiye fell asleep the moment his head touched the pillow. The next morning, he was awakened by the alarm clock he had set in advance. As he picked up his phone to turn it off, countless notification messages appeared on the screen. "Happy birthday! Wishing you a wonderful birthday!" They were automatic birthday greetings sent by various apps and websites. Only then did Lin Qiye remember. Today was his birthday. He quietly looked around the empty room. No one had remembered. No one had wished him a happy birthday. Liu Ruyan didn't remember. Yuanyuan didn't remember. To them, today was just another ordinary day. Lin Qiye smiled faintly. It doesn't matter. This is my last birthday in this world. Even if he had to celebrate it alone, he still wanted to leave himself with one final memory. He went out alone. He bought a small birthday cake. Returning to the villa, he carefully placed it on the dining table. He lit a single candle. The tiny flame gently flickered. Lin Qiye slowly closed his eyes, just as he was about to make a wish. Ding dong. The doorbell suddenly rang. He opened the front door. Standing outside was Liu Ruyan's assistant. The assistant handed him an exquisite gift box. "Mr. Lin, President Liu asked me to deliver this to you. She wants you to change into these clothes, then go to the 5th floor of Yayan Hotel to meet her." After delivering the message, the assistant left immediately. Lin Qiye looked at the box in silence. For a brief moment, he thought perhaps Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan had finally remembered his birthday. Perhaps they had prepared something for him. Without thinking further, he carried the gift box upstairs. Inside was a neatly prepared formal suit. He quietly changed into it before heading toward the hotel. After arriving at the 5th floor, he finally realized it wasn't his birthday party at all. The luxurious banquet hall was beautifully decorated. Flowers filled every corner. A towering multi-layer birthday cake stood at the center. Presents were piled high on the long table nearby. The entire venue had been prepared for one person, Boran. Just as Lin Qiye was silently looking around, Boran walked over with a warm smile. "Mr. Lin, you're finally here." Behind him stood Liu Ruyan and Lin Yuanyuan. The moment they saw Lin Qiye arrive, their expressions changed slightly. Liu Ruyan frowned almost imperceptibly. Yuanyuan tugged lightly on her mother's sleeve, her face showing obvious dissatisfaction. "Dad, why did you invite him?" Boran smiled gently. "I heard that today is also Mr. Lin's birthday. Our birthdays happen to fall on the same day. It would be too lonely for him to celebrate by himself, so I invited him to join us." His words sounded considerate, but the smug look hidden in his eyes told a completely different story. He deliberately led Lin Qiye toward the center of the banquet hall. There, on a long, decorated table, were countless, beautifully wrapped gifts. Large boxes, small boxes, luxury brand packages, designer watches, custom-made presents. There were so many gifts that they nearly covered the entire table. Boran smiled proudly. "These were all prepared by Ruyan and Yuanyuan for me." He looked sideways at Lin Qiye. "You can pick one if you like. Otherwise, spending your birthday without receiving a single present would be too pitiful." Everyone nearby quietly turned to look at Lin Qiye. They waited to see his embarrassed reaction. But Lin Qiye merely glanced at the mountain of gifts before calmly shaking his head. "No! They were prepared for you. You should keep them." There wasn't the slightest trace of jealousy in his voice, nor was there any sadness. His calm reaction made Jiboran's smile stiffen for just a moment. Still unwilling to let the matter end there, Jiboran led him toward the enormous multi-tier birthday cake in the center of the hall. Candles flickered softly. The guests gathered around. Jiboran smiled warmly. "Mr. Lin, since we share the same birthday, why don't you make a wish together with me?" Thinking of the birthday wish that had been interrupted earlier at home, Lin Qiye did not refuse this time. He stepped forward, slowly clasped his hands together, closed his eyes. Silently, he made the wish hidden deepest within his heart. "I wish that after today, Liu Ruyan, Lin Yuanyuan, and I will never meet again." It was a wish no one present could possibly understand. After he opened his eyes, Boran immediately smiled and asked, "Mr. Lin, what did you wish for? Why not tell everyone?" Before Lin Qiye could answer, Yuanyuan spoke first with complete confidence. "What else could it be? Every year he wishes that Mommy and I stay safe and happy. I'm sure this year is exactly the same." Standing beside her, Liu Ruyan remained silent. But from her expression, she clearly thought the same thing. Lin Qiye simply smiled faintly. He had no intention of correcting them. A misunderstanding like this would only make leaving easier. Just then, Boran picked up a glass of fruit juice and handed it to Lin Qiye. "What a coincidence. We even share the same birthday. Let's have a toast. You won't refuse, will you?" The moment Boran extended the glass, Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan instinctively stepped closer to him. Their eyes remained fixed on Lin Qiye with obvious vigilance. It was as though they feared he might intentionally embarrass Boran. Seeing their reactions, Lin Qiye couldn't help but smile bitterly. Without saying anything, he accepted the glass. The two glasses gently clinked together. "Happy birthday! Happy birthday!" After the toast, more guests gathered around Boran. One after another, they raised their glasses to congratulate him. Boran chatted happily with everyone. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan and Yuanyuan stayed faithfully by his side. One helped him decline drinks. The other prepared food for him. They never left him alone for even a moment. Not far away, Lin Qiye quietly stood by himself in a corner of the banquet hall. No one came to celebrate his birthday. No one offered him a gift. No one even remembered that today was his birthday too. Nearby, several guests lowered their voices and began whispering. "President Liu really treats Mr. G well. She hasn't left his side all night. Her actual husband has been standing alone the entire evening." Another guest laughed quietly. "Mr. G is President Liu's first love. If he hadn't disappeared back then, there would have never been a place for Lin Qiye." Someone else shook his head. "If I were Lin Qiye, I'd divorce her and leave. Why keep embarrassing yourself?" Another person smiled sarcastically. "Leave? He's married to the richest woman in the country. Do you really think he'd be willing to walk away?" Every word reached Lin Qiye's ears, but he didn't feel angry. Instead, he quietly smiled. Leave? Very soon, he would disappear completely from their lives, forever.
The birthday banquet had not yet ended. Guests continued chatting and raising their glasses. Boran smiled elegantly as he accepted everyone's congratulations. Liu Ruyan and Lin Yuanyuan stayed by his side the entire time. One poured him drinks. The other carefully selected food for him. They looked exactly like a happy family. Lin Qiye remained alone in a quiet corner of the banquet hall. He had no interest in joining them. He simply waited for the banquet to end so he could leave. Suddenly, a loud groan echoed through the hall. Ugh! Boran suddenly covered his stomach. His face instantly turned pale. Sweat quickly formed across his forehead. His body staggered. Liu Ruyan's expression changed immediately. Boran! She hurried forward and supported him. What's wrong? Boran clutched his abdomen tightly. My stomach. It hurts. It hurts so much. The guests immediately became flustered. Someone shouted, Call a doctor! Liu Ruyan didn't hesitate. She immediately contacted her private physician. Within minutes, the doctor rushed into the banquet hall carrying a medical kit. After a quick examination, his face became serious. President Liu, Mr. G appears to have been poisoned. He needs to be taken to the hospital immediately. If his stomach isn't pumped soon, the consequences could become very serious. The entire banquet hall fell silent. Everyone stared at Boran in shock. Liu Ruyan's face turned frighteningly cold. Without another word, she supported Boran as they hurried toward the exit. Lin Yuanyuan followed closely behind, her small face filled with panic. Before leaving, Liu Ruyan stopped. She slowly turned around. Her icy gaze swept across everyone in the banquet hall. Finally, she spoke in a voice that carried overwhelming authority. Find out who did this. No matter who it is, I won't let them go. With that, she escorted Boran out of the hotel. The birthday banquet ended abruptly. The guests quietly dispersed one after another. Some whispered among themselves. Others speculated about who could have poisoned Boran. Within minutes, the once lively banquet hall became completely empty. Lin Qiye stood there for a few seconds. Then he silently walked toward the exit. No one stopped him. No one spoke to him. He simply returned to the villa alone. As he stepped into the quiet house, he looked around at the familiar living room. Soon, none of this would matter anymore. Only 2 days remained before he could return to his real world. He quietly walked upstairs, completely unaware. A storm was already beginning to gather. The next morning, before Lin Qiye had even finished breakfast, the villa doors were violently pushed open. Several bodyguards strode inside. Behind them walked Liu Ruyan. Her face was colder than ever. The moment she saw Lin Qiye, she threw a document onto the table. Bang! The test results are back. Lin Qiye lowered his eyes. On the report were the names of several food samples collected from last night's banquet. One line had been circled in red. The glass that Lin Qiye had used contained poison. He frowned. "I didn't poison anyone." Liu Ruyan looked at him expressionlessly. "The poison was found in the drink you held. How do you explain that?" Before Lin Qiye could answer, Boran slowly walked in. His face was still pale after having his stomach pumped at the hospital. His right hand rested lightly against his abdomen. He forced out a bitter smile. "Ruyan, don't blame Mr. Lin. I'm sure he didn't mean to hurt me. He probably just misunderstood something." His words sounded like he was defending Lin Qiye. In reality, every sentence pushed the blame further onto him. Liu Ruyan's eyes became even colder. Misunderstood? What misunderstanding could justify poisoning someone? At that moment, Lin Yuanyuan also ran into the room. The little girl immediately hugged Boran's arm. Boran tightly before glaring at Lin Qiye. "You bad man! You wanted to kill my dad." Lin Qiye looked at the little girl, the child he had raised for 5 years. Without even asking what had happened, had already sentenced him guilty, he calmly asked, "Yuanyuan, did you see me poison him?" The little girl froze briefly. Then she shook her head. "No. But it must have been you. Only you hate Dad." Those words pierced deeper than any knife. Lin Qiye slowly lowered his gaze. He did not explain further, because, no matter what he said, none of them would believe him. Liu Ruyan took a deep breath before speaking. "Until the investigation is over, you are not allowed to leave the villa. You've already ordered someone to check every surveillance camera from the banquet. If you really didn't do it, I'll give you justice." After saying that, she escorted Boran back to the hospital together with Yuanyuan. Soon, the villa became quiet once again. Lin Qiye stood alone in the empty living room. He looked toward the calendar hanging on the wall. He picked up a pen and crossed out another day. Only 2 days remained. He quietly returned to his room. This time, he didn't think about the poisoning, nor about Liu Ruyan, nor Boran. He simply opened the drawer, took out the old photograph of his real wife and daughter, and gently smiled. "I'm coming home soon."
That entire day, neither Liu Ruyan nor Boran returned. Lin Yuanyuan didn't come home either. The villa was eerily silent. Lin Qiye sat alone in the living room, quietly watching the sky outside the window. The daylight slowly faded into darkness, and the darkness eventually gave way to another dawn. No one came back, no one called, no one remembered that today was the final day of his 7-year mission. Early the next morning, a familiar mechanical voice echoed clearly inside his mind. "Host, your 7-year companionship mission has officially ended. The return portal will open in 10 minutes. Please prepare for departure." Lin Qiye slowly stood up. At last, the day he had waited for had arrived. He walked to the mirror and gently straightened the collar of his clothes. The man reflected in the mirror looked pale after everything he had endured over the years. But for the first time, there was light in his eyes. He was finally going home. Just then, bang, the villa's front door was violently pushed open. Liu Ruyan rushed inside, breathing heavily as if she had run all the way back. In her tightly clenched hand was a thick investigation report. Her face was deathly pale. Behind her stood Boran, whose expression had completely lost its color. Lin Yuanyuan followed behind them, lowering her head, too afraid to say a word. Lin Qiye. Liu Ruyan's voice trembled with panic. The surveillance investigation, it's finished. Lin Qiye calmly looked at her. I know. Liu Ruyan's fingers tightened around the report until they turned white. The person who poisoned the juice, wasn't you. It was Boran. Boran's body shook violently. His face instantly became as white as paper. Liu Ruyan stared at Lin Qiye with reddened eyes. He secretly put a tiny amount of poison into his own drink. Just to frame you. And that pearl necklace. He hid it himself. Yuanyuan's fall from the second floor was because he failed to catch her. But he blamed everything on you. Every accusation, every misunderstanding, every injustice Lin Qiye had suffered over the past several days was finally exposed. The truth had come to light. Liu Ruyan slowly stepped toward him. For the first time since they had met, there was regret in her eyes. I'm sorry, Lin Qiye. I wrongly accused you. My fault. She bit her lip before speaking again. Come back with me. Let's go to the hospital. And, let's start over. At that moment, the system's voice sounded once more. Countdown. 3 minutes. Lin Qiye quietly looked at Liu Ruyan. The woman standing before him was filled with remorse. The little girl beside her kept her head lowered. Even Boran remained speechless. But none of it mattered anymore. His heart no longer held any anger, nor any attachment. He simply smiled faintly. No need. Liu Ruyan, I'm leaving. She froze. Leaving? Where are you going? Before Lin Qiye could answer, the system spoke again. Countdown. 1 minute. Return portal activated. A dazzling white light suddenly descended from above, enveloping Lin Qiye's entire body. The brilliant light illuminated the entire living room. Liu Ruyan and Boran stared in disbelief. Neither of them could understand what they were witnessing. Lin Yuanyuan was so frightened that she burst into tears. Dad, what's happening to you? Liu Ruyan completely panicked. She rushed toward the white light and desperately reached out. Lin Qiye, where are you going? Come back. But the moment her hand touched the light, it passed straight through. She couldn't touch him, not even for a single second. Standing within the white light, Lin Qiye looked at the 3 people before him one last time. There was no hatred, no resentment, only relief. A gentle smile appeared on his face as he softly spoke his final words. Liu Ruyan, Lin Yuanyuan, goodbye. The next second, the brilliant white light vanished. The living room fell silent once more. Only the empty villa remained. And Lin Qiye had completely disappeared from this world.
The brilliant white light completely faded. The once lively living room was now filled with nothing but cold, empty silence. Lin Qiye was gone. Completely. Without leaving behind even the slightest trace. Qiye. Liu Ruyan collapsed heavily onto her knees. She desperately reached both hands toward the place where he had been standing, but all she could grasp was empty air. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. It felt as though a giant hand had ripped her heart apart, leaving behind unbearable pain that made it difficult even to breathe. Daddy! Lin Yuanyuan stood frozen, staring at the empty living room. Only after several seconds did she realize Lin Qiye had truly disappeared. She fell onto the floor and burst into heartbreaking sobs. Mom! Daddy's gone. Where did Daddy go? Did he abandon us? I don't hate him anymore. Mom! Please bring Daddy back. I'll be good from now on. I'll listen to everything. Please, bring Daddy home. Her cries echoed through the silent villa, but no one answered. Standing nearby, Boran's face had turned completely pale. His whole body trembled as he instinctively stepped backward. Ruyan. What was he? How could someone just disappear into thin air? Shut up. Liu Ruyan suddenly turned around. Her bloodshot eyes were filled with overwhelming hatred. Every bit of love she once had for Boran had vanished. Only rage remained. It was all because of you. If you hadn't poisoned yourself to frame him, if you hadn't lied to me, if you hadn't deceived us, he never would have left. Her icy voice rang throughout the villa. She looked toward the bodyguards waiting outside. Take him to the police. He poisoned himself. He framed an innocent person. I want him to spend the rest of his life in prison. Boran's legs gave out beneath him. His face was drained of all color. Before he could plead for mercy, the bodyguards dragged him away like a lifeless animal. His desperate screams gradually faded into the distance. Liu Ruyan slowly climbed the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. Finally, she pushed open the door to Lin Qiye's room. The room was terrifyingly clean. The wardrobe was empty. The drawers were empty. Even the toothbrush and towel he had used every day had disappeared. Although he had lived there for 5 years, not a single trace of him remained. It was as if he had already been preparing to leave long ago. Then, her gaze stopped on the bed. A slightly yellowed old photograph rested quietly on top of the blanket. With trembling hands, she picked it up. In the picture, a beautiful, gentle woman was holding a little girl. Both wore warm, happy smiles. The kind of smile she had never seen on Lin Qiye's face during the 5 years he spent beside her. Slowly, she turned the photograph over. On the back, written neatly in Lin Qiye's own handwriting, were a few final words. The mission is complete. I'm going home. This was never my home. And you were never truly my family. Boom. The words struck Liu Ruyan like lightning. Her entire body collapsed weakly onto the floor. So, the mission. Going home. So that's what you meant. She suddenly remembered every strange sentence he had spoken during those last few days. Only 7 days left. Only 5 days left. Only 3 days left. Tomorrow, I'll finally go home. She had always believed he was throwing a childish tantrum. She never imagined every word he said was the truth. Tightly hugging the photograph against her chest, Liu Ruyan broke down completely. Alone inside the empty room, she cried louder than she ever had in her life. From that day onward, Liu Ruyan permanently sealed the villa. She dismissed every servant. Every day, she remained inside Lin Qiye's empty room, waiting, even though she knew he would never return. Lin Yuanyuan cried every single day for her father. She could no longer eat the warm meals he used to prepare. No one patiently helped her with homework anymore. No one gently carried her when she was afraid. No one smiled and forgave her no matter how cruel she had been. Only after losing him did she finally understand who had truly loved her all along. But no matter how much the mother and daughter regretted their choices, no matter how many tears they shed, no matter how desperately they called his name, the man who had loved them without asking for anything in return, the man who had silently given everything for 5 years, never appeared before them again. Because this time, Lin Qiye had truly gone home. Su Yue smiled gently and brushed the snowflakes from my shoulders before straightening my scarf. That's right, she said softly. This is what it means to grow old together. The three of us smiled at one another as the snow continued to fall around us. Our peaceful little family stood in sharp contrast to the cold, lonely rehabilitation center behind us. But I underestimated how deeply they were obsessed with holding on to me. Early the next morning, after accompanying Su Yue and Meng Qinyu through their final medical examination, we completed the discharge procedures. As soon as we walked out of the rehabilitation center hand in hand, I saw them, Liu Ruyan and Lin Yuanyuan, 2 expensive fur coats and designer winter jackets. Yet no amount of luxury could hide the exhaustion on their faces. Their pale complexions, their bloodshot eyes, their lifeless expressions. 3 years of regret had left visible scars on both of them. The moment Lin Yuanyuan saw our family walking together, her eyes instantly turned red. She stared at little Qianyu, who was tightly holding onto my sleeve with both hands. The jealousy in her eyes was impossible to hide. Dad. She ran forward a few steps before pointing at Qianyu with trembling fingers. Her voice broke into sobs. You abandoned mommy and me because of them? Why does she get to call you dad? You're my daddy. I frowned impatiently. Without hesitation, I moved in front of Qianyu to shield her. My voice was calm, but completely emotionless. Little Miss Lin, please show some respect. I am not your father. I never was. And I never will be. From beginning to end. I have only ever had one daughter, Meng Qianyu. The words, Little Miss Lin, they struck Lin Yuanyuan like a bolt of lightning. Her tiny body froze in place. Then she began trembling uncontrollably. Liu Ruyan hurried over and pulled the crying girl into her arms. She looked at me with pleading eyes. The proud billionaire who once stood above everyone else was now nothing more than a woman begging for forgiveness. Qiye. We know everything about the system now. For the past 3 years, not a single day has passed without regret. I know we treated you terribly. I'm not asking you to forgive us immediately, but please, give me one chance to make it up to you. I'll transfer every single share of the Liu Group to your name. Everything I own can belong to you. I couldn't help laughing. The sound carried no warmth. Make it up to me? Ms. Liu, I think you've misunderstood something. 5 years ago, I only approached you because of the system's mission. The reward for completing that mission was bringing my real wife and daughter back to life. I never loved you. I never loved Lin Yuanyuan. Everything I did for the two of you, cooking, taking care of you, protecting you, enduring your abuse, I only did it because the system forced me to. Nothing more. Every word was like a dull blade slowly cutting into Liu Ruyan's heart. Her face turned completely white. She kept shaking her head. No. I don't believe you. Even if it started because of the mission. You stayed with me for 5 years. When I was sick, you stayed beside me all night. You cooked for us every day. You took care of Yuanyuan. How could you possibly have never loved us? There wasn't. I answered without the slightest hesitation. Not even once. Instead, every time I forced myself to compromise, I felt disgusted. The day you locked me inside the punishment room, the day you allowed Boran to beat and torture me, every remaining feeling I had turned into hatred. Qiye. Liu Ruyan's legs gave out beneath her. She nearly collapsed onto the snowy ground. At that moment, Su Yue quietly wrapped her arm around mine. She lifted her head gracefully. Her elegant face remained calm, but her eyes were ice cold. She looked directly at Liu Ruyan. Ms. Liu, my husband spent 5 years suffering humiliation and pain just to save our daughter and me. I haven't even settled that debt with you yet. And now, you actually dare to come here asking for forgiveness? She tightened her grip on my arm. My husband and my daughter need nothing from outsiders. As for you, if you ever appear before my husband again, I don't mind making sure the Liu Group disappears from the capital forever. As the head of the Su Group, the most powerful business empire in the capital, Su Yue wasn't making an empty threat. Outside her own city, Liu Ruyan's wealth meant absolutely nothing. Compared to the Su family, she wasn't even worthy of standing on the same stage. Liu Ruyan stood there silently. Her face had completely lost all color. She knew she had already lost. Forever. Little Qianyu peeked out from behind me. She hugged my leg tightly and puffed out her tiny chest. Her childish voice echoed through the snowy morning. My daddy belongs to mommy and me. You bad women. You're never taking my daddy away. Looking at the three of us standing together, holding each other tightly, completely inseparable, Liu Ruyan and Lin Yuanyuan finally realized they had lost me forever. There was no love left, no hatred, not even the slightest bit of attachment. In my world, they weren't even passing strangers. They were nothing more than a painful memory I had been forced to endure. Mom! Lin Yuanyuan collapsed onto the ground, clutching her head as she cried uncontrollably. Dad really doesn't want us anymore. He really went back to his own daughter. The last light in Liu Ruyan's eyes faded away. She stared at me in complete disbelief. Large tears rolled down her cheeks one after another. But this time, I didn't even bother handing her a tissue. Yue, Qianyu, let's go home. I didn't spare them another glance. Holding Su Yue's hand with one hand and carrying little Qianyu in the other, I walked straight past the mother and daughter, who were still sitting helplessly on the ground. Together, we headed toward the hospital exit, where warm sunlight poured through the glass doors. Behind us, Liu Ruyan's heartbroken cries echoed through the hallway. Lin Yuanyuan desperately called out for me again and again. But none of it had anything to do with me anymore. We walked through the long corridor. The warm sunlight gently fell across our bodies, chased away the cold of winter. Little Qianyu giggled happily in my arms. She wrapped her tiny arms around my neck, then gave me a loud kiss on the cheek. "Daddy, when we get home, can you make longjing shrimp for me? I want Daddy to cook it himself." I was slightly startled. Then I couldn't help but laugh. I gently patted her back. "Of course. Daddy will make it for you himself." Su Yue turned to look at me. Her beautiful eyes were filled with endless tenderness and quiet heartache for everything I had endured. "Qiye, from now on, Qianyu and I will be the ones taking care of you." I nodded firmly. "Okay." My eyes grew slightly moist, but my heart was filled with nothing but happiness. Winter would eventually come to an end, and at long last, I had finally returned to the warmth of the place where I truly belonged. The end.